Psalms chapter 84 and verse 10. For a day in thy courts is better than 1,000. So one day in the kingdom of heaven is better than 1,000 of your best days on this side, man. Let me repeat that again. One single day in the kingdom of heaven is better than 1,000 of your best days on this side, man. Okay? Where things were better for you. Moments that you can reminisce on and say, yeah, that was a good day. The kingdom of heaven blows it out the park, man. It blows it out the water. Just one day. Not to mention, the Heavenly Father, He's going to stretch out the time. He's going to expand the time so you can enjoy your immortality. You can enjoy your life. And the Lord said in Wisdom of Solomon, He created the Israelite man to be an image of His own eternity, man. We're going to be a likeness of His own eternity, man. We're going to be many most highs, man. We're going to be many most. Okay? God's on earth under Yahweh Shemiah Shah.
I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High.
And also what's going to make us gods? These laws, statutes, commandments, and us judging by the laws, statutes, commandments, but also these laws being in our inward parts, making us those perfect judges. Not to mention, we experience these different reincarnations in this wicked flesh, so we know how to judge the flesh. We know how to judge this body because we've been in this body many times. Okay? But once again, the kingdom of heaven is going to be patterned after the mind of Yahweh Shemiah Shai, man. A righteous paradigm.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth and this sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful lake, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Al Shah. All right, what I want to get into today, dealing with, the book, all right, of Ezekiel chapter 12, and also, some news and prophecy, and the brother, having a dream, dealing with, all right, prophecy, man. Okay, as the scripture said, that the Lord will pour out, his spirit. Okay, and there will be a lot of visions, and dreams, given in these latter days. Okay, my brother want to post that in Joel, but I want to get this here, these two precepts, because we come into the time, all right, with these devils, and they're forwarding, their new world order at a rapid rate, even before, things are fully up and running. They're trying to push this thing to the next phase. All right. And it's going to be a very tacky how this man puts this new world order together. Okay. Attempts to put this new world order together because we know he's not going to accomplish his enterprise. The Lord's only going to let him get so far. So let's read this in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 12, verse 22. It says, Son of man, what is that proverb that ye have in the land of Israel, saying, the days are prolonged and every vision faileth? Okay, because as the spirit, all right, of prophecy has been in the earth, going on, all right. You go from the 70s, so close to 55 years, 69, 70, 55, 56 years. Okay, the spirit of prophecy, the spirit of truth, has been in the earth, and since 2007, it just went global, okay, via the internet. You see, so you have almost 18 years, going on 19 years, okay, with the truth being on the internet. All right, so the truth has been broadcast, okay, worldwide, and it's constantly being broadcast as we speak. Okay, but see, major prophecy, hasn't happened, and people are numb, to hearing about these prophecies, and they haven't fully happened. And in the spirit, we can see these things gradually, all right, taking place in the earth. We see Jacob Trouble, the MOTB, and World War III. We see all the pieces being put in place, all the pieces being moved, okay, to cause these things to happen, okay? And it's all about just the timing of the Lord, you see? So you have our people, as we speak these things and they don't fully come, when years go by, all right, well, our people become numb to these prophecies, man, okay? But if you're in the spirit, you know that these devils are in full throttle, man, okay? And you best believe, their counsels, all right, are full for this new world order. You can tell, all right, with this guy Trump, okay, being the face, okay, of this new world order in America, okay, that they're pushing. You see, and his brother Dream, is going to confirm those things. All right, brother Rapah Amath, elder brother Rapah Amath, he's out of the main camp in New York, but he's now in Birmingham. All right, GMS Birmingham branch. Okay, he's a member of that church now. Okay, but the brother had a dream, and you can see, all right, that the Lord, all right, pretty much has uh is showing the brother behind the scenes of what's going on with these devils, man. When you go into the dream. Now, this is Ezekiel 12:23 says, "Tell them therefore, thus said the Lord, I will make this proverb to cease, and they shall no more use it as a proverb in Israel, but say unto them, the days are at hand, and the effect, all right, of every vision." Okay, the effect of every vision. You see? So at the end of the day, all right, what we have to understand, all right, is that Yahweh Bashim Al Shai has it set up, okay, for the effect of every vision to begin to take place in the earth at an appointed time. Okay, and a lot of the things that we're waiting upon, well, it's hinged on Esau making his move, for him to really bring the hammer down with Jacob's trouble, okay, for him to really push the MOTB, and for these small hats, the least of the flock, to draw them out, to draw these major nations into this third world's war. So all the pressures on Esau to go with his move to push these things through. Okay, so we see the Lord have Esau, all right, under the gun. You see, Esau not just kicked up, chilling, trying to pull this new world order off. This nigga is under the gun. Okay, and while scripture speak about what he's weary, in his counsel, man, this nigga is under the gun trying to pull this off. Okay, so let's go from there and let's go to the brother Dream. Then we'll get some more precepts and then we'll segue, to another video. But let's go here. All right, like I said, this is the beloved other brother, Rapah Amath. All right. And I'll put the link to his channel. All right, which is GMS Class of Kings. All right, and I'll put the link to his channel. All right, so that's the link to the brother channel. All right, and I'm gonna play this, and he recorded, his dream, when he woke up, before he would forget it. So it's gonna be a recording, and then he's gonna expound for a few minutes, and then we'll get into some more precepts, our Ratazah. All right, so let's let this play.
Recording that when I woke up early in the morning, I made just so that I wouldn't forget the dream. Y'all familiar with dreams. If you don't write it down, or if you don't repeat it back in your head or record it, it's gonna go to the abyss, forever to be forgotten. So here goes the dream that I recorded right when I woke up. And I'll play that now.
So the vision is that in the dream I had last night that I just woke up from is that all the nations had came together, like the UN, and pushed for Americans to give up guns, and that every push they gave for Americans to give up their rights or their guns, there's always pushback against that, and they couldn't get it done, so they brought in a second plan. And the second plan was to destabilize America from within. And the first thing that they did on the agenda was that they started pushing back from the border. They started at the border, and it became to increase the distance between the two countries. So, for instance, like, they put like a hedge or a demilitarization zone, and just really just became to push the border back from what that looks like is where the border is now, where maybe a wall is or a line is now. They would push it back into America. From that line, it would go back into America about, you used to go up right to the line. You couldn't go anymore for about 10, 15, 25. So they keep pushing back this border, calling it a demilitarization zone. But all it did was, like if you're trying to trap rats, whatever, you just keep cutting off its corners, cutting off its area where it can run around till it can't go nowhere. So basically, they shortened up or squeezed up the size of America by pushing back our borders into America. And then the next phase is that, they have people turn on each other, austerity, but ultimately they're going to change the money system. And the money system, it involves the CBDC and digital. So without the old barter system and without being able to leave the country, and every man fending for himself for the most part, America's got their guns, but because the system is changing up and switching up, it became like a war zone. And now the international community has to be more called in because they're keeping it like a war zone where a lot of people is robbing, stealing. You shot desire to go into a city and cannot. Love of many shall wax cold, because they planned to first take the guns and it was unsuccessful. So this is pretty much the only option they had left, was to have everybody turn on each other, create a panic or chaos situation, and then have them so that they're trapped because they can't escape through the border anymore. And then, I never got to the end of the dream. I pretty much woke up. I guess I got excited in the dream. That just woke me up. So I brought this. I was edifying. Shalom.
So just to expound on, the brother Dream, dealing with, all right, trying to disarm, America, all right, which this is why they have a lot of these mass shootings, a lot of these things, are staged and set up and psyops, for gun control. Okay, which these Americans not going for it. Okay, especially these red-blooded Edomites. All right, they're not going for giving up their guns. Especially as the trust in government, all right, you know, has waned. All right, since the 2020, especially since the lockdowns. Okay, now Trump, he revived a little more trust in the government, but that has swindled too, because there's only one option, and that's for prophecy to be fulfilled. Okay, and these people, all right, is prophesied that what, that they're going to turn against each other. Okay, so there's going to be things done. All right, since they can't get the guns out of people's hands, they're going to make people use guns on each other. Okay, they're going to create a purge atmosphere. Okay, in America, man. Okay, where there's going to be scarcity. All right, and what are people going to do? They're going to turn on each other, man. Okay, so they're going to look. We can't get the guns out of their hands, so let's make them use the guns on each other, and it's all prophecy, man. Okay, Isaiah 9:2. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother. Okay, so what the brother is seeing, in his vision, all right, is a military tactic being used, okay, to where they cut off the border. And he's talking about the border of Mexico. So they start out of Mexico and they begin to go up, all right, and to go into America. And that's how you conquer nations, okay? It's pretty much like a siege, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do the same thing on the East Coast and the West Coast, and just constantly cut off, all right, Americans' ability to move, okay, America's ability to get resources and goods, okay, because that's what happens in the siege. Eventually, the city turns on itself. When things get scarce in the city, when you do an ancient world siege, okay, well, this city, okay, will turn on itself, okay, because of scarcity, and now it's about survival, okay, and you seen that and leave the world behind, okay, and it's easy for them to just it'd be much easier for them, to cause, all right, these harsh conditions, which the grid going out, okay, orchestrated famine, all right, which will get people what to turn on each other and just take each other out. Use these all these weapons in America, because America is the most armed, all right, country in the world. No civilian population is armed like the American civilians. Okay, more guns than people. You see, and that's just the ones they got on record. Okay, none of niggas. We YNs ain't got no registered weapons, man. Okay, and it says, and they shall fight everyone against his neighbor, and everyone uh against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom, man. All right. So you're going to see fighting, all right, civil unrest, okay, on a whole another level, all right, as these devils, you know, activate this next phase, this siege on the American population, okay? So even when you go into, let's see, we can pull something up on the chat, all right. Let's say would citizens, all right, citizens turn on each other during a siege. So let's go real quick to the chat. See, they'll give us some. So you go into an ancient siege. Okay, let's go into it, dealing with an ancient siege. So I just asked it, will citizens turn on each other? During the siege, it says when citizens might turn on each other. It says resource scarcity. As food, water, and medicine run low, competition intensifies. People may hoard supplies or steal from others to survive. Black markets often emerge, favoring the strong or wealthy. Okay, breakdown of authority. If leadership, military, government, or police collapse, lawlessness can take over. Power vacuums lead to factionalism, gang. All right, what this is. It says gangs, militias, or rival ideologies vying for control. Okay, city against city. You see, you're gonna have like different gangs, and you see, it's gonna be anarchy, man. Okay, it says fear and paranoia. It says suspicion of collaborators or spies can spark witch hunts. Ethnic, religious, or class divisions might flare up violently, man. So you're gonna have class divisions, ethnic, religious. It's gonna be just divided in so many different ways. It's gonna turn to a brawl for it all. It says desperation and psychological stress. Extreme conditions degrade social norms. Starving people have been known to fight over scraps of worth. Cannibalism in some historical sieges. Okay, so this is the atmosphere that they're gonna bring. Since they can't get the guns out of people's hands. Okay, so they can usher in this new world order. All right. Well, they're going to create this type of environment. They're going to create a siege type environment, man. And the prophecies back that up. So let's go to the prophecies. They go into everything. All right. We just read. You see? Yep, the brother. That's a spirit. Hey, the brother already got it. So let me cue up. Go back to the brother video since the brother got there on the comment. Hey, that's all you can think of. When you go into we read that chat. All right, it's the only thing you can think of, man. All right, this is the brother Yashima, tribe of Judah. Second Ezra 15 and 15 said, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people, all right, shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands. Yeah, so you're gonna have, different ethnic groups. All right, you're gonna have different religious sects. You're gonna have different ideologies of politics, and you know, it's gonna be a brawl for it all, man. So it's gonna be all these different divisions of people and different sects and different fascists of people, okay, that are gonna rise, all right, out of this chaos, man. Gangs, militias, okay. Verse 16, and it says, for there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Okay, so government is going to fail, local police is going to fail. Okay, and it's only so much you can militarize. That's why they have to do, a siege fashion and just cut people off. Okay, because you're talking about 300 plus million people, you know, and then the majority of them are armed. Okay, so we're going to see, all right, these devils do siege tactics in America, man. It's it's highly likely. Okay, which is going to cause the atmosphere for Second Ezra 15. A man shall desire to go into the city and shall not be able. They're gonna start cutting things off, man. All right, they're gonna have choke points. Okay, they're gonna have DMZs, the demilitarized zones. Okay, where no one is able to go into. Okay, they're gonna begin hourly and they're gonna slowly work their way in. Okay, because you can't just invade, just invade the American population. Okay, it's gonna be warfare. It's gonna be siege warfare. Okay, then it's gonna turn to desperation, and people are gonna turn on each other. And then at that point, All right, people are doing the bidding of the elites by depopulating, canceling each other out. You see, Second Ezra 15:18 said, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Yeah, it's gonna be okay. A judgment as well, a judgment from Yahweh by Shema Shai. Okay, for the pride of this place. Okay, because the average American, has this sense of pride, this, this main character syndrome, narcissism. Okay, rebellious against, the Lord. You see, so this is gonna be a form of judgment. All right, that the Lord's gonna allow it to get extremely bad for people out here, man. Okay, people are getting ready to suffer. Okay, on a level that they can't imagine. It's gonna be extremely violent, man. Okay, extremely violent. Brother can post that in Zechariah 14:2 as well. Okay, verse 19 it says, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor. Yeah, you see, going back to desperation. You see, going back to desperation, man. See, people are finna really bug out. Okay, people are finna bug out. People are finna be more demonic than ever. Okay, cannibalism. Okay, people, they pity is finna go out the door. It's already a cold world, man. How much colder it's gonna be when you take away the resource, when people have no release? Okay, when they can't feed the beast, the flesh. You see, people are gonna absolutely, all right, go insane. And it says, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread. Okay, and for great tribulation, man. Okay, because these people are going to be cut off from resources, man. There ain't going to be no ships coming in, ain't going to be no trucks on the road. Whatever you got in your area, that's just what you're going to be confined to. Okay, and it's going to get to the point, all right, to where people, okay, are going to go into savage mode, survival mode. Okay, and all these dystopian movies. Okay, the road. Okay, all these movies of dystopia and desperation, and you see, these things are going to be a reality, man. Except way worse. Okay, because it's just going to be a brawl for it all, man. A fight for the scraps. You see, Hunger Games on a whole nother level. You see, so let's let some more of the brother Dream play. Let me get that in Zechariah. And let some more of it play. This Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 2. All right, this is the book of Zechariah, chapter 14 and verse 2. It said, for I will gather all nations against Jerusalem, okay, to battle. You see? And this going to be here in America, man. All right? Because, see, Trump is talking about the National Guard. Well, what about all these UN troops who are already stationed here? Okay? You see, there's going to be another level. See, Jake thinks the National Guard is the end all be all. No, there's mercenaries. There's from all over the world that's here. Okay, because remember, millions, tens of millions of people, okay, were allowed through the border. A lot of them military age men with no families. Okay, and the people think that Trump is, making some type of leeway by deporting, a few hundred, a few thousand, okay, northern tribes a year, when they've let tens of millions in over the last, okay, several years. Okay, A lot of these people that came through the border are UN troops and mercenaries, man. Okay, it's gonna be tasked, and what would be a better time to release them than the time of chaos? Okay, and you best believe they have their certain areas, okay, that they're assigned to go and wreak havoc, man. Okay, so you tribes, okay, the stiff neck, okay, you're making yourself an enemy of the truth with your mockery, and okay, you're caught up in, you got you under that young boy enchantment. Okay, Lord finna bring war to you tribes, man. Okay, in the midst of all this, man. Okay, and it says, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished, and half of the city shall go forth, okay, into captivity, these concentration camps, all right, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city, which is the elect, the remnant, okay. So the Lord gonna have us in different circumstances, man, in these times. The Lord said we will have abundance in these times of scarcity, man. And we gotta believe that. What else can we do but trust in it? Okay. So I'm gonna let the brother expound some more, get a couple more precepts.
Now, what I mentioned, and shout out to the brother I'm on the ball for the big video. Now, what I mentioned, what was happening, was basically the nations had came together, and the nations had start to have a conversation with American leaders. Basically, President Trump was over there with NATO and EU, and they were talking about how they're going to bring in, he was talking to his heads, the world government heads, because this new world order needed to be pushed, and there was a timeline for it. And the agenda that was next up on the elite's timeline was Americans and their guns. And in the dream, I'm seeing Trump having this conversation pretty much about, they're not going to give up their guns, kind of like defending the Second Amendment and, basically saying they're not going to give up their guns. And there's no point in trying to ask them or whatever. So it's on the agenda at that point in time about how do you get these Americans away from their guns, and the conversation transferred over to, what basically a siege is, what we know today as a siege.
So I want to touch on that, because these devils are in council. All right. One thing we have to know, these devils are constantly in council discussing their next move towards this new world order. All right. And they're becoming aggressive. Okay. So, he said he had a dream with Trump, talking to, NATO, EU, and then you had, their overlords, the people that, they answer to, okay, with this world government, all right, what they call the shadow government that really runs, the governments of the world. Okay. So you see Trump, NATO, EU, okay, representatives, discussing with their overlords, okay, what to do next. And they like, look, because what people have to understand, a strong America is in the way of a new world order. Okay. The privileges and the rights and the liberties, all right, that American citizens have are in the way of a new world order. Okay, and this is why this place is under controlled demolition. All right, they're crashing the money on purpose. Okay, they're causing division and civil unrest on purpose. Okay, because they need this place extremely weakened. Okay, as they getting ready to roll out this new world order. Okay, so when you go into let's go here, Psalm 60. All right, which speak about these devils and their wicked counsel. Okay. Oh, 64. So like Psalm 64. Let me get it. All right, Psalm 64 and 1, it says, Hear my voice, O power, in my prayer. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity. Okay? So these are these devil's secret counsel. Okay? The brother, he was given, a behind the scene of these devil's wicked counsel, these secret counsels, man. Okay? So this is, a prayer of David to be hid from the secret counsel of the wicked, man, because they have a lot of wickedness on the books, okay, that they want to execute, man, especially with the tribes and especially with the prophets, man. Okay, it says who wet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. And these devils have no fear of Yahweh by Shemal Shah. Okay, they come up with they go to these secret councils. They come up with all these agendas of what they want to do next, and they have no fear of divine judgment from Yahweh by Shemal Shah. They all about their next move. Okay, so these devils are in these councils, and their mindset is geared towards their next move, man. You see, and to weaken America is that's what's next on the play, and that's what Trump has been tasked to do. Okay, it said they encourage themselves in the evil matter. They commune on laying snares privily. They say, "Who shall see them?" Okay, so they encourage themselves in these councils, man. Look, this is what we finna do. You got to do this. These different governments come together. Look, we need your government on this. Y'all got to do this. Look, we need the American guns. We need to tank the EU economy. We need to, make Russia, okay, be the boogeyman. Iran be the boogeyman. Let's do the cyber attacks. Let's do this. Okay, they got all type of snares and traps set up, in order to attempt to forward their new world order. Okay, and they have these scapegoats already. Okay, so you never point the finger at them. Who shall see them? That's their mindset. Well, they're not, these people not going to know, all right, that we're the cause of this because we already got scapegoats, these distractions. Okay, and that's how these devils been operating, man. All right, but the Lord has a spotlight on Esau, man. Okay, and he knows that he's all right. His timeline. Hey, look, you see, and I bet, and I best, and I can believe that they behind on their timeline, man. Okay, it says they search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search, both the inward thought of every one of them, and the heart is deep. Okay, so they have, they go deep into these discussions, man. They go deep into their wickedness and craftiness on how to pull this off, man. When it comes to their enchantments and so the psyops and their tactics and the division of the people and the distractions and causing these events to happen so they can justify this, bring forth this, man. Okay, they go deep into this in their councils, man. Okay, because what we're seeing with these devils is just a council that's played out. Okay, this whole CK guy, Captain Kirk, and y'all, you best believe there was heavy counsel on that and on that event and what they would do after that event. Okay, because freedom of speech is another thing. All right, just as they want to take away the guns, well, freedom of speech is high on their agenda as well, as you can tell. Okay, well, see, this is what these devils are not considering because they're making all these plans and they doing the diligent search, but this is what they not considering, man. Verse 7 said, But the Most High shall shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded, man. And ultimately, it began with the prophets, because the prophets are like a spiritual weapon of the Lord, okay, which is a hindrance to the devil, okay, and everything that he wants to do, you know. But ultimately, it's going to end with those missiles and the fire from those chariots, man. Okay, but the prophets being raised up has wounded this man. All right, in his attempt at the new world order. Okay, it says, "So shall they make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away." Yeah, so you have these insiders that have came out with information. You have AI that's telling on this nigga. Okay, everything is exposing this devil as he get closer, all right, to the end. Okay, and it says, "And all men shall fear and shall declare the works of the Most High, for they shall wisely consider his doing it." See, it's gonna be known that it's gonna be known that Yahweh Bashima Shai judged this man and why he was judged. Okay, and the earth gonna consider Esau was just set up to be an example, okay, a righteous judgment going forth from the Lord. It said, "The righteous shall be glad in the Lord Yahweh Bashima Shai and shall trust in him, and the upright in heart shall glory." Okay, so this ends bad for Esau, man, but it ends all right, great for the elect. You see, but we in those times, man. So the Lord, gave a brother their dream. I put the rest of the video uh in the comment, in the chat. So if y'all want to check that out, but that's pretty much the point. Just want to go into that. So Lord will, you brothers, all right, and you sisters edified once again. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Kakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us younger brothers, and peace and blessings, salutations to the hopeful, like Shalom.